Shalom. 1 Peter 3, roughly page 1185 in the scriptures. In the same way, wives, be subject to your own husbands. In what same way? Well, this is a continuation of the thought in 1 Peter 2. For this you were called, 2:21, because Messiah also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow in his steps. In this same way, wives, be subject to your own husbands. Follow in his steps. Acknowledge the leadership of him. So that if any are disobedient to the word, they without a word might be won by the behavior of your wives. In other words, wives, your righteousness may win the soul of your husband, even if your husband is disobedient to the word. Doesn't mean you disrespect your husband, but it means that your living witness of walking in the commands of Yah and being obedient to Yeshua becomes the thing, the catalyst for the change of heart in your husband, which leads him unto righteousness. But it doesn't mean you're disrespectful in the process of doing that. In the same way, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that if any are disobedient to the word, they without a word might be won by the behavior of their wives. See that? They without a word? It's not something you're going to talk him into or nag him into. How do I know? I'm a man with a wife. Let the way that you walk be a living witness unto your husband. Without a word might be won by the behavior of their wives, having seen your blameless behavior in fear. Your adornment should not be outward, arranging the hair, wearing gold, or putting on dresses. I'll be frank, there's a lot of women, including women in the church these days, that run around looking like whores, that put every curve of their body on display, and that's unacceptable to Elohim. It's not me speaking. This is to Elohim, unacceptable. That's for your husband. The joy of your body, that every curve, every inch of your body is for your husband. It's not for anybody else. Your adornment should not be outward, arranging the hair, wearing gold, or putting on dresses, but the hidden man of the heart, with the incorruptible ornament of a meek and peaceable spirit, which is of great value before Elohim. For in this way, in former times, the set-apart women who trusted in Elohim also adorned themselves, being subject to their own husbands, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master. See, this is an acknowledgement of the order of the household here, the appropriate order of a household here. Of whom you became children, doing good and not frightened by any fear. In the same way, husbands, now this is for us men, live understandingly together, giving respect to the wife as the weaker vessel. It doesn't mean that she's weak, it just means that she's the weaker vessel. And if you have a particularly strong wife, what does that say about you? It means Yah has trusted you with one of his badass daughters and you need to step up and be a man. That's what it means. In the same way, husbands, live understandingly together, giving respect to the wife. You don't laud over her. This submission is not something that's to be abused. Your wife is a daughter of Yah. You don't get to abuse her. She belongs to Yah. She is property of the Most High. You are to be a good steward of her. Giving respect to the wife as the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the favor, the grace of life, so that your prayers are not hindered. To sum it up, let all of you be like-minded, sympathetic, loving as brothers, tender-hearted, humble-minded, not returning evil for evil, or reviling for reviling, hatred for hatred, but on the contrary, blessing, knowing that you were called to this in order to inherit a blessing. Called to what? Called to this. This again harkens back to the second chapter here, 1 Peter 2:21. For this you were called, because Messiah also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps. You were called to this, to walking in his steps, to inherit a blessing. For he who wishes to love life and see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. We're going to see what that blessing is in a moment. Let him turn away from evil and do good, and let him seek peace and pursue it. Because the eyes of Yahweh are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayers. But the face of Yahweh is against those who do evil. We know from the Gospel of John that the Father does not hear the prayers of the unrighteous. And if I was a high-speed pastor guy, which I'm not, I'd have a piece of paper as a bookmark in here where that is underlined in my word. But right here, John 9, chapter 31. And we know that Elohim does not hear sinners, but if anyone fears Elohim and does his desire, he hears him. New Testament, Gospel of John. And we know that Elohim does not hear sinners, but if anyone fears Elohim and does his desire, he hears him. 1 John 3, verse 4, sin is transgression of the law. Because the eyes of Yahweh are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayers, but the face of Yahweh is against those who do evil. And who is the one doing evil to you if you become imitators of good? But even if you suffer for righteousness' sake, you are blessed. And do not fear their threats, neither be troubled. That is, underline that. If you are suffering for righteousness, do not fear their threats, and neither be troubled. What are you so concerned about? You're in Yah's will. He's got you. Don't worry about everybody else. Don't worry about people. Don't worry about the opinions of men and women. You're doing Yah's will. And if they don't get it, they don't get it. And if they do get it, praise Yah, you found a brother or sister. And do not fear their threats, neither be troubled. But set apart Yahweh Elohim in your hearts. This is New Testament, y'all. Why were you called? To walk in Yeshua's steps, to inherit a blessing, to set apart Yahweh Elohim in your hearts, the one true God. And always be ready to give an answer to everyone asking you a reason concerning the expression that is in you, with meekness and fear. Meekness is controlled power and authority. And fear, not of the other person, but fear of Yahweh, that you continue to work in righteousness. So be ready to give an account of your belief. Why do you believe the way that you believe? See, there's a lot, it's common in the Torah movements, the way or Hebrew roots, or whatever you want to call it. People ask me all the time, hey, that religion that you do, what do you call it? I don't do religion. Religion is man-made. I read the Bible and I do what it says. That's not religion. I'm a follower of Messiah. That's what I am. And any label you put on it is inadequate at best, oftentimes inaccurate. Okay? But of these people who are following Messiah, right? The revelation folks, the saints, us, that have a testimony of Yeshua Messiah and keep the commands. Both sides of that thin blank page between 2 Chronicles and 1 Matthew 1 rather, right? Those people on both sides of the book oftentimes can't give an account of what they believe or why. Well, it's on us to be able to justify what we believe biblically. And so do your homework, because if you can't justify what you believe biblically, you're creating a poor witness to whoever it is that may ask you questions. Why do you do that? I don't know. Well, how come you won't eat this thing? Well, because it says in Leviticus 11 this. Well, what about Acts chapter 10? Read Acts chapter 11, where Peter makes it quite clear that that's about people. Well, what about where Yeshua says it's not what goes into a man's mouth but that defiles him, but what comes out? He was insulting the Pharisees, and that Matthew 15 is all about ritual hand washing. Oh. Okay. Right? What do you mean you don't work on Shabbat on Saturday? Yeah, the fourth command. 6 days ye shall labor. the seventh is a Sabbath of rest set apart to Yahweh, our Elohim. Well, I worship on Sunday. Well, let me explain to you why that's not the case. So forth and so on, right? So you have to be ready to give an account of what you believe and why, so that we're not creating a poor witness for people who are new to this walk or curious could become new to this walk. But set apart Yahweh Elohim in your hearts and always be ready to give an answer to everyone asking you a reason concerning the expectation that is in you with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, so that when they speak against you as doers of evil, when they say you're totally wrong, you're an unbeliever, you're devaluing the grace of Messiah, you're denying Jesus. Yeah. So when they speak against you as doers of evil, those who falsely accuse your good behavior in Messiah, doing the things, both sides of the book, keeping the commands. When they falsely accuse, they that don't understand, falsely accuse your good behavior in Messiah, they shall be ashamed. Because the Word is the Word, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst men. Why? Why did it dwell amongst men? To teach men the Word again, because they had lost it. That's why the Pharisees are getting rebuked constantly by Yeshua. For it is better, if it is the desire of Elohim, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. If you're going to suffer, you're going to fall into various trials and tribulations, you might as well suffer on behalf of the kingdom and Elohim than because you're whoring with Babylon. Because even Messiah once suffered for sins, the righteousness for the unrighteous, to bring you to Elohim. Why did he suffer? To bring you to Elohim. Yeshua says, no one comes to the Father but through me. That's why he suffered, to bring you to Elohim. This is not destination theology, fire insurance, believe in Jesus and everything is good to go from there. No, he suffered to bring you to Elohim, to bring you into the family of Yah. And it turns out this family has some rules about how it operates, just like the universe has rules. They're immutable rules as to how the universe operates. Gravity, for example. Doesn't matter whether you think the law of gravity is accurate or not, whether you're supposed to keep it or not. If you transgress it, you're going to feel the effects, literally and figuratively, of transgressing gravity. Same thing with the Father's rules, his instructions, the Torah. You can transgress them all you want, whether you believe them or not. If you transgress them, things aren't going to go well for you. If you jump off of a tall building without a parachute, you're going to go splat. Same thing with the Torah. You don't have to believe in it or not. It just is. It is the same rules that the Father used when he set up the heavens and the earth. He had a prescription of rules for heavenly bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars. He has rules for our earthly bodies. The Torah. How do you love Yahweh, your Elohim, up, down, with everything that you got? And how do you love your neighbor as yourself, left, right? The Torah. So Messiah suffered to bring you to Elohim, having been put to death indeed in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit. And so there's a parallel there for us. We are to die to our flesh, but to be made alive in the spirit, just as Yeshua was. Now, this last portion here, 19 through 22, this is interesting. When Yeshua was in the Spirit, in which he went and proclaimed unto the spirits in prison. I'll read the next part. Who were disobedient at one time, when the patience of Elohim waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is 8 beings, were saved through water. So there were disobedient spirits in the days of Noah, when at this point the Torah was oral. It wasn't written down. It wasn't given to all nations. See, Jesus, Yeshua, the good news, preach it to all nations. The whole planet, every living soul. Yeah, well, Yeshua is the Word made flesh. The Word is the Torah. Preach it to the entire world. Copy. See, Noah preached for 120 years as he was building the ark. And his granddaddy, Lamech. And they were not received. But there's the implication here that those spirits have been kept in a prison of sorts. And that when Yeshua was in his spirit mode after the crucifixion, but before the resurrection, that he proclaimed this unto the spirits in prison. And I don't know. And so this is me talking. This is not the Bible talking. I don't know. And maybe it's just a happy thought. But I feel like for those that truly didn't know, that they're in a holding pattern of sorts, and that they have an opportunity to hear the word and make a decision before eternal damnation. I don't know that to be true. But many have said that, or something to that effect, because of this passage here in 1 Peter 3. Having been put to death indeed in flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which he also, Yeshua, also went and proclaimed unto the spirits in prison, who were disobedient at one time, when the patience of Elohim waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is, 8 beings, were saved through water. So, it also shows, we can at least take this away. Yeshua, when he was in the spirit realm, was still incredibly active in spreading the Father's word. He was still looking for spirit, souls, people, if you will, to share the word with, even as he was between the worlds. Which figure now also saves us, immersion, the baptism in water, which is a mikvah, which predates Christianity, a ritual cleansing. That's why John the Baptist was baptizing people before Yeshua. I mean, you can read about washing in Genesis and Exodus. It goes all the way back. That is, a few 8 beings were saved through water, which figure now also saves us, immersion, baptism, not a putting away of the filth of the flesh, not just cleaning the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience towards Elohim. You're baptized in the name of Yeshua because of a good conscience towards Elohim through the resurrection of Yeshua Messiah, who, having gone into heaven, is at the right hand of Elohim, messengers, authorities, and powers having been subjected to him. He is the master, period, the end. Yeshua is the master, and he currently sits at the right hand of Elohim. And we've discussed previously, anywhere you see in your word where it talks about the outstretched arm of Elohim, or the right hand of Elohim, or even the Yod, the Hebrew letter, it looks like a Y or a hand, that's Yeshua. So you were set aside, you were called by the Father to walk in Yeshua's steps back unto Elohim, so you can experience the blessing of the inheritance. What is that? The blessing of that inheritance, that is eternal life. And we can provide a second witness there in Revelation 22. Verse 12, and see, Yeshua, I am coming speedily, and my reward is with me to give to each according to his works. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, and the first and the last. Blessed are those doing his, Yahweh's commands, so that the authority shall be theirs to enter unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. What city? The new Jerusalem, with the new heaven and the new earth and the new temple where Yeshua is high priest. Yeah. (21) verse 27, the last verse of 21. And there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So how do you get into the Lamb's book of life? Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. So there's a clear juxtaposition between Revelation 21:27, and there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written into the Lamb's book of life. So if you're unclean, doing abomination and doing falsehood, you don't get in. However, the juxtaposition here is chapter 22, verse 14. Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. Blessed are those doing his commands. You were called to walk as Messiah walked, who kept his Father's commands, John 15:9 and 10. Who loved his Father and kept his commands so that you could walk in his steps. You were redeemed so that you could experience the blessing and the promise of the inheritance unto the tree of life, and to enter into the gates of the city for all of eternity. I know for a lot of people it might sound crazy. Well, that's not what I was taught in church. I know, because unfortunately the church doesn't teach what's in the Bible. Or if they do, it's just a small portion. They cherry pick verses to come up with their own doctrines and dogmas. And that's why I don't refer to myself as religious. Because religion is what happens when you cherry pick verses to come up with your own doctrines and dogmas. We read the book and do what it says. Bless y'all. Shalom.